Joining us now in Studio B to recap last night's win is BYU basketball assistant coach Quincy Lewis. Quincy, welcome back to Studio B.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, man, after that win, absolutely. The energy is high. The energy was great last night from your team. Just after you had a night to sleep on it and you've been thinking about it this morning, what's kind of on your mind this morning in regard to what happened last night?
Yeah, I thought we came out with great emotion, right out of the gates. And, I liked how we played together. I like how we started defensively in the game, and we kind of set the tone. And I thought McKay Cannon really came out and did a nice job on Sam Merrill to start the game.
BYU's defense, I mean, really as a whole, starting with McKay Cannon and the presence he put on Sam Merrill, you think that there would be a lull at some point, but I heard you during one specific timeout say, "Stay with our defense," and you said it like 4 or 5 times in a row, and that was repeated in other timeouts as well. What was the overall defensive plan last night?
Yeah, really, we look back from the game before, and we just really got stretched out against Weber State, and we lost our principles, and everybody got a little bit nervous and kind of started worrying about their guy too much. And for us, defensively, we really have to play as one. We have to play together, and we have to stick to where our principles are. And we felt like at a little stretch in that Utah State game, we started pulling apart again, and we just had to bring it back together.
Utah State coming in was playing really good basketball. They were 7-1, and really a really confident team. You guys pretty much had the lead from the start. How did you, or what was the team doing that helped you maintain that lead really all night long?
Well, I think our guys are upset with what happened a few games before, number one. And, Coach Rose isn't going to allow our guys to, have that kind of a game again, honestly. And so we came out and we were ready to go. And, like I said, defensively we were good. And then, Nick gave us a nice boost off the bench.
You saw Nick come in, and what a first 30-ish seconds. I mean, he gets a good look coming off for a three, knocks it down, then has a steal about 5 seconds later, and then has an assist to Connor Harding on the break. And I just thought, really? Is this real? You can't make this stuff up. What did you think of Nick's debut overall?
You know what? It was great to see, and especially for that kid, and really for me, knowing a lot of what he went through in this last year, to see him come out like that was just fantastic, and so happy for him, really happy for our team, and really good to see so many contributors on the floor. Connor Harding came in, did a great job, and I think Dalton Nixon's effort sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, as does McKay Cannon's, and both those guys were fantastic too.
We were talking in our last segment about how we think the team is different with Emery on the floor. How would you answer that question? How is this team different with Nick back?
One thing that Nick gives you is, he just gives you a little swagger. He gives you a little swagger on the floor, and I think it loosens everybody up, and it's a confidence thing. And obviously, he gives you 3-point shooting. I think he's a very underrated defender on the ball, and he also sees the floor very well offensively. He can make plays.
Yeah, it's interesting when a player can do that for a team, because as I talk to some of the other guys, the collective idea is we just feel better when he's on the floor. Like, we feel like everything's going to be okay when he's on the floor. And I don't know when that happened or how that happens, but how would you explain that phenomenon?
I think it just takes a little bit of pressure off maybe some people like Yoli or TJ or Jashir, to know that there's a guy who can make a play like that's out there. And little by little, Nick has been, we've been kind of interjecting him in practice with these guys. And so it's not easy just to kind of move him into, that rotation, but worked pretty well last night.
People certainly are aware. You see the stat line of what TJ is doing, but I'm not sure people realize just how good of a year he's had overall. He's playing some really good basketball.
He really is. And, I feel like overall TJ is really doing a good job defensively too. And last night he takes 2 charges, and it's funny. I see him in the locker room after, and he goes, "Coach, I took 2 charges." I go, "Yeah, that's the first time." Maybe once, before then, but Teach, it helps. TJ's an active guy, and that's been good, and his assist to turnover ratio is what's really impressive.
Yoli Childs, back-to-back games with 31 points. Understandably, he's more excited about what happened last night because it ended in a win. What makes him such a difficult matchup for the opponents that you face?
Well, 31 points, ho hum. What's this guy? I mean, it's just this guy is something else with what he does with his rebounding and his scoring. Each game, and really they tried to double him in the post last night and made it really tough. And what's really been good about Yoli is he's been able to step away and make passes and get other guys shots out of that. And and I felt like the thing I like best about Yoli, obviously he scored, but the thing I like best about Yoli last night is I thought he was a more active defender last night for us.
With all of the things that worked well last night, whether it's shooting, defense, whatever the case may be, what do you think is the easiest to translate moving forward?
I think that we've been waiting for Connor Harding to shoot like that, and that is not a surprise to me at all. And the guy works really hard. I mean, he's here early in the morning. He stays after practice. That was not a surprise to me. Obviously, with Nick, you're not quite sure what he's going to do in that first game, but great to see him make some shots. And so I think that is something, just overall being able to shoot the ball right there, I think is something that can translate. And really defensively, I think this is something that we need to carry over,
BYU a season best 11 for 24 from the three-point line. And I'm sure you understand how it magically works, right? You know the key to just pulling that lid off the basket, right?
Yeah, I wish I knew that key, Yeah. So whatever it was last night, we need to get more of that because that's got to be a big part of our offense. And really, we've, especially over the last two games, we've been very efficient. But be nice to be able to make that consistent.
We can get to Utah specifically in a second, but this week you're in the midst of 3 straight games against in-state teams. You had Weber State, Utah State, and then Utah Saturday. What do these games against other teams from the state of Utah mean to this program?
Truthfully, I'd like to say that it's just another game, but it really isn't. It just means more to the fan base, and it means more to the players because they know a lot of the players on the other teams and things like that, and the crowds and things like that. So there is something more of those games.
Quincy Lewis with us on BYU Sports Nation, BYU basketball assistant coach. Now you can officially turn your attention to the Utah Utes. So at this juncture, what do you know about them? What kind of problems will they cause BYU basketball, or at least things you need to be aware of?
Well, they're always well coached up there, and this is a big physical team. They have length. They have good talent. They're kind of a younger team right now, kind of feeling their way along. But the younger kids they have are really talented guys.
Quincy, it's been fantastic to have you. Have you signed our new Sailor Kook flag? You have.
I think I
first,
have.
right?
Was I the first?
Were you the first? You must have been one of the first.
I think I got on there. I got on there.
Yeah, you're on there. Okay, let's give you some BYU Sports Nation karma for the game against Utah.
All right, I'll take it.
Go and distribute that as you see fit. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Okay. But congratulations again on a big win over Utah State.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.